Guys, welcome back to Lab Cyber. So today's video is going to be a little bit different from the usual kind of content I make here on YouTube, because today I will be talking about my favorite movies under cybersecurity. I love watching movies, and I've seen thousands and thousands of movies, and I've seen many movies that have talked about cybersecurity or hacking, and unfortunately many of these movies aren't that great. It's either they portray hacking in a very ridiculous kind of manner, or the movie in general isn't that great. But thankfully we've also had quite a number of really good movies as well. So in today's video I will be revealing my top 10 favorite movies of all time under cybersecurity. And just a few things to mention: this list isn't strictly a movies list, because we're actually going to have a few documentaries on this list, and there's also going to be a series on this list as well. So it's not strictly a movies list. I should also mention that this list is of course very subjective. I'm pretty sure you're watching, you might have a different opinion, you might have a different top 10 list, but that's okay. Movies are very subjective, documentaries are very subjective. This is just my own personal choice, my own personal list. And of course, let me also mention that this list isn't in any particular order. So it's not like it's the top 10, so number 10 is not as good as number 9 and number 1 is the best, something like that. No, this list is in a random order, so keep that in mind. And let me also just mention that I will be giving a few plot details about these movies and documentaries. I will not give away any major spoilers, should in case if you haven't seen the movies, you can watch them for the first time and actually enjoy watching those movies. So I will give you some few plot details, but that's just to give you a context of what the movie is all about in general. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. Alright, so kicking off our list at number 10 is going to be the movie Sneakers, produced in the year 1992, and it stars Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, and Dan Aykroyd. And it's basically a story about a particular character played by Robert Redford, Martin Bishop. He is the head of a group of penetration testers, and they're essentially blackmailed by the American government into stealing a black box that actually has the ability to decode every single encryption system around the world. There is a major twist that is revealed kind of like midway through the movie, which I will not tell you what it is, but it is a great movie. The acting is phenomenal. There's also a classic nod to social engineering. There's a particular scene in the movie where Martin Bishop, played by Robert Redford, has to break into this research facility, and he does so by putting on a suit, and he's carrying like this gift bag, kind of like a present, and he fools everyone. Everyone thinks, oh, you know, this is a very nice gentleman who wants to give this gift to somebody in a facility. So they let him in, and he's basically able to gain free access around the building just by pretending to be someone that he's not. And in reality, these things actually happen quite a lot. There's also quite some good talk about encryption, some technical stuff as well. So overall, it's a very solid movie on cybersecurity. And if you haven't seen Sneakers, definitely give it a shot. Like I said, there's a big twist in the movie which I will not reveal to you, but when you watch it, you're going to enjoy this movie. Alright, so number 9 is going to feature the first of 2 Will Smith movies on this list, and that is Enemy of the State. I have seen this movie over 100 times. I'm not even exaggerating. I love this movie because not only is it really entertaining and action-packed, but it's also one of the very first movies that truly revealed how much the government knows about its citizens and just how much damage the government can do to you if they wanted to. So it centers around the character played by Will Smith. I don't remember what his character's name is, but basically there is a group of people working for the NSA headed by John Voight. It's not the NSA, the governing body itself. It's actually just a group of people within the NSA who are after him, and they're headed by John Voight's character, and they're hunting him down because they believe that he has a videotape that can incriminate the head of this group played by John Voight. So they are able to gain access to all his financial transactions, his debit card, credit card. They know about his education, who he has had relationships with. So they basically use all this data information to destroy his reputation. His wife, you know, kicks him out of the house, and it just, I don't want to reveal too much, but it is a great movie. Gene Hackman is also in this movie as well, who in the movie he used to work for the NSA, so he knows a lot about the technology that the NSA uses, and he's able to help Will Smith defeat these guys. But the ending in this movie, the ending is one of the best endings I have ever seen in any movie. If you love action-packed movies, you're gonna love Enemy of the State. If you haven't seen it, definitely watch it today. Alright, so number 8 is gonna be the first of a few documentaries on this list, and that is going to be Religion, the story of the Hacktivists, made in the year 2012. Now, I saw this movie last year for the first time, and I have to say that even though overall it's quite a good documentary on hacktivists, I do have an issue with it, and that is the fact that the hacktivist group that is central to this story is the group Anonymous. Now, about midway through this movie, they try to portray Anonymous as the good guys, and the good guys who are unfairly targeted by governments around the world. And in reality, it is wrong to claim that Anonymous are the good guys. It's also equally wrong to claim that they're the bad guys. The thing is, activism and hacktivists, these are very controversial subjects, and no one can really define whether they're right or they're wrong. It all depends on whom you ask. Keep in mind that hacktivists hack for a cause that they believe in. Whether or not what they believe in is actually right or wrong depends on whom you ask. Again, these are very, very controversial subjects that are not black and white. They're kind of like, there's plenty of gray areas when it comes to like activism in general. So I would still recommend that you watch it just to gain an insight into how Anonymous think, how they operate, what motivates them. It's a great documentary to watch for educational purposes, but just keep in mind that they try to get you to try to sympathize with Anonymous, which I felt was kind of wrong, but nevertheless still a very great documentary. One of the best documentaries I've seen so far on the topic of hacktivism. Alright, next is going to be Snowden, and of course this is the documentary slash movie about Edward Snowden, who of course went on the run after he revealed to the entire world that the American government, especially the NSA, was spying on its citizens. Now, this is something many of us were already suspecting before he even did so, but he actually revealing and providing all the evidence needed was kind of like the final nail in the coffin. And of course, as you can imagine, the American government were not very happy. They've labeled Snowden as a traitor, and of course, Snowden, I believe right now is, I don't know where he is, maybe somewhere in Russia or in Hong Kong, I don't know. But if you've ever wanted to learn a bit more about Edward Snowden as an individual, how he got into the NSA, his previous career before the NSA, I believe he worked either for the FBI or the CIA, I don't remember. But it is a very, very, very wonderful movie that reveals quite a lot about Edward Snowden as an individual. And I like the movie because it's quite balanced. It's not like they try to portray Edward Snowden as this superhero who saved the world, or they don't also try to portray Edward Snowden as this super villain who wants to destroy the American government or anything like that. No, it's quite balanced. And if you've ever wanted to learn a bit more about Edward Snowden, definitely give this movie a view. Edward Snowden is portrayed by the incredible Joseph Gordon-Levitt, whom I respect as an actor. I think he's a phenomenal actor. So if you want to learn a bit more about Edward Snowden as a character, definitely give Snowden a shot. Alright, next on this list is Swordfish, and this is a movie that hits home for me because this is the movie that actually got me into cybersecurity. And even though the hacking in this movie is complete nonsense, I still have a very, very soft spot for this movie because, like I said, it's the movie that actually got me invested in hacking. It's the movie that got me interested in hacking and the world of cybersecurity. And I don't know if I would be here talking to you today if I didn't watch this movie. It came out back in 2001, starring John Travolta, the beautiful Halle Berry, whom I used to have like the biggest crush on for many, many years, and Hugh Jackman as well, who plays the main hacker in this movie. Now, Swordfish, like I said, there's plenty of hacking in the movie, but most of it is pure nonsense. There's a particular scene, a very, very infamous scene in this movie where the character played by Hugh Jackman, Stanley, he has to prove to John Travolta's character, Gabriel Shear, he has to prove to Gabriel that he has the skills to work for Gabriel. And of course, Gabriel tests him by giving him just a laptop. They're in a nightclub. He gives him this laptop and he says, yes, I want you to break into the database for the DoD, the Department of Defense, I believe. And to make things more dramatic, one of Gabriel's henchmen points a gun at, Stanley's head. And also one of Gabriel's female assistants does something to Stanley while he's told to hack into the database. I'm not going to reveal what it is. You can watch the movie for yourself. It's X-rated, so this is YouTube. I'm trying to keep it family friendly. But of course, in typical Hollywood fashion, Stanley is given 60 seconds to break into this database, which of course makes absolutely no sense. But of course, Stanley starts to hack very quickly. He's doing all this, typing on the keyboard like very quickly. And of course, in typical Hollywood fashion, yet again, with just about a few seconds to go, he successfully breaks into the Department of Defense's database, which is impossible. But that's Swordfish for you. It's on this list purely out of, I would admit, purely out of sentimental purposes. It's not because the hacking in the movie is great or anything like that. Not really. It's just because it's a movie that really inspired a lot of individuals, including myself, to get into cybersecurity. And I don't know how old you are, but if you're my age, you remember that this movie also created this this sort of fascination with the Swordfish name. People start using Swordfish as their password to their laptops and their the flash drive, things like that. For a very long time, Swordfish became one of the most popular passwords used on the internet. It's kind of died down now, but back in the early 2000s to mid 2000s, Swordfish was one of the most popular passwords purely because of this movie. So if you haven't seen Swordfish, give it a shot. You might enjoy it, you might not enjoy it, but still give it a shot. Next movie on this list is another documentary, which is The Great Hack, which covers the Cambridge Analytica scandal, which occurred back, I believe, in 2018. If you've never heard of this scandal, it basically revealed the fact that Facebook were harvesting the data of their users and also selling that data to third parties. That's what the Cambridge Analytica scandal was all about. And this is something that I already knew prior to this scandal occurring. I knew about it, but what surprised me was that a lot of people actually didn't know much about how Facebook and how other major social media companies were harvesting the data of the users. But this scandal kind of revealed to the world the true operations behind Facebook, how they were actually stealing their customers. Next movie on this list is The Great Hack, which you can find on Netflix. And it covers the true life scandal, the Cambridge Analytica scandal. And if you've never heard of this scandal, it occurred back in, I believe, in 2018, where it was revealed that Facebook were actually harvesting the data of its users and selling that data to third parties. So, me personally, I wasn't shocked to learn about this. I knew about this before it even occurred. But what surprised me was that a lot of people didn't seem to know that Facebook were actually selling the data of its users. So this scandal kind of revealed to the world how Facebook truly operated, and this documentary covers the scandal in great detail, and it exposes Facebook even more. You'll learn a lot more about how not just Facebook, but how other major social media companies do harvest the data of their users and how they sell that data to make even more money. So definitely give this documentary a view. It's almost 2 hours in length, but trust me, you will not notice. It's very well done. It's well executed. So definitely check it out today. Next is going to be the final documentary on this list, and that is 0 Days. In my humble opinion, the best documentary on cybersecurity, and it covers the story of Stuxnet, arguably the first ever cyber warfare weapon, which was of course created by both America and Israel to take down the nuclear centrifuges in Iran. This is a very exciting and a very powerful documentary. If you want to learn a lot more about Stuxnet, how it was developed, how it was deployed, this documentary will show you. It's almost 2 hours in length as well, but it is very fascinating. And what I really loved about this particular documentary is that it shows you just how powerful cyber warfare weapons can become. And I do believe that, God forbid, if there's a World War III, it's not just going to be nuclear weapons or missiles or planes or tanks. There's going to be a lot of cyber warfare involved as well, where the infrastructure of countries will be taken down with the use of viruses and malware. And this documentary just talks about one in particular, Stuxnet, which, by the way, was developed over 10 years ago. Just imagine the kind of cyber weapons that America has, the kind of weapons that Russia has, maybe even China, North Korea. It's really fascinating, but also scary at the same time. But definitely give 0 Days a view today. I think you would enjoy watching this documentary. Number 3 on this list is going to be I, Robot, and this is by Will Smith. It was released back in the year 2004. And I love this movie. It is one of my favorite Will Smith movies. And yes, I know it's not central to cybersecurity. It's more about artificial intelligence. But it also covers Asimov's laws. I don't know what they're verbatim, but it's something about, robots cannot harm humans. Robots should not harm humans either intentionally or unintentionally, things like that. So if you're into this kind of, laws, you're going to love this movie because it covers that topic really, really well. But it's also a movie about a particular robot that becomes kind of self-aware, sentient. It's able to make decisions on its own. But what got me thinking is that imagine in the future where we have robots that have become self-aware, that have become sentient, and you actually have a group of hackers who are able to somehow hack the brains, the artificial intelligence, all of these robots, and begin to control them. Imagine how exciting and how scary that would be at the same time. And given the fact that, if you recall, a few months ago, an ex-employee of Google, I believe it was last month actually, claimed that Google has now developed a bot that has actually become self-aware, that has become sentient. Of course, Google denied that it's true. Personally, I don't know what the truth is. I think you'd be a fool to believe what Google tells you. But I'm also kind of a bit hesitant to believe that we now have bots or robots that become sentient. I think that would be very, 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 very scary. But nevertheless, I love this movie because it's action-packed. Will Smith is great as always. And if you're into artificial intelligence, you're gonna love this movie. I love the movie. Yes, I know it's not about cybersecurity, it's more about artificial intelligence. But the possible connection with cybersecurity where you have like hackers, hacking these robots, I think is very, very fascinating. And if you haven't seen iRobot and if you like action movies, definitely give this movie a view. I think you're gonna love watching this movie. Number 2 on this list is going to be Catch Me If You Can. One of my all-time favorite movies, probably my top 10. And if you've seen this movie before, you're probably wondering why on earth will this movie be on a list of cybersecurity movies? What's going on here? If you don't know what the movie is about, it's about the true life story of Frank Abagnale, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. He's a con artist, and he basically fools people into thinking that he's a pilot. He pretended to be a medical doctor. He pretended to also be a lawyer, and people believed him. Now, why this movie is on this list is because keep in mind that when we're talking about cybersecurity, it's not just about code or hacking or networks or encryption, things like that. It's also psychological. It's also about social engineering, and that's why I love this movie, because it shows you a con artist, a social engineer, a master at social engineering. Basically, like I said, Frank Abagnale, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, was able to impersonate a doctor, a lawyer, and an airline pilot as well. Just because he was very, very charming, he knew the right things to say, he put on the act as well, he got the uniform, so people just believed him, and people by default are programmed to trust other people by default, especially when you look the part. If you look the part and you sound the part, people will believe whatever you tell them. So it is a great movie to watch. It's fascinating. Leonardo DiCaprio is excellent as Frank Abagnale, and Tom Hanks is also in the movie. He plays the role of the FBI agent who is trying to track down Frank Abagnale. And if you haven't seen this movie, please do watch it. Like I said, it's one of my favorite movies of all time, not just for cybersecurity, but one of my favorite movies in general. I love this movie. Please give it a shot. If you haven't seen the movie, you will not be disappointed. And number 1 on this list is going to be Mr. Robot. And I know in the preview I said this list wasn't in any particular order. However, this I listed as number 1 for a very particular reason, and that's because I believe this to be the very best movie / series, whatever you want to call it, that covers cybersecurity. It is the most accurate. It's actually not a movie, it's not a documentary, it's a series. But I think it's about 4 seasons. I've seen the first 2. I just haven't had the time to watch the remaining seasons. But it is a fantastic, phenomenal series covering cybersecurity. It is extremely accurate. The hacks pulled off, the code being used, the tools being used, it's very, very, very accurate. And it's not action packed. It's not like, you know, guns or anything like that. It's really about hacking. And the hacker played by Rami Malek, Mr. Robot. Rami Malek is phenomenal. The acting is incredible. The atmosphere is just, I love it. If you're looking for a series to watch on cybersecurity, this is by far the best. I don't think we can even get any series that beats Mr. Robot. We might eventually at some point, but at the moment, it's by far the very best anything Hollywood has ever made when it comes to cybersecurity in terms of accuracy. So if you haven't seen Mr. Robot, do definitely give it a shot. You would not be disappointed. You're gonna love watching this series. So there it is, my top 10 movies slash documentaries slash series for cybersecurity. And what do you think about this list? Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to hear from you. What are your own personal favorite movies for cybersecurity? Please put them down in the comment section below. And if there are any movies or documentaries that you've seen that I didn't talk about in this list and you think are great, please do let me know what they are. I'm always open to watching new movies or documentaries or series on the cybersecurity. So please, I'd love to hear from you. If this is the first time you're coming onto the channel, my name is Alex. This is Lab Cyber, where I try to make the topic of cybersecurity very easy for people to understand. So please do subscribe today if you enjoyed today's video. Give it a thumbs up, of course. Share the video with anyone who may feel might benefit from it. And as always, please stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.